Yeah, happy holidays, happy holidays,
Merry
and Merry
Christmas.
Christmas. Have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. A very Merry Christmas and a All
Oh,
right,
I hope everyone woke up with beautiful gifts under their tree. And if you didn't, the Spirit of the Lord is with you anyway. So, Merry Christmas.
glory, Merry Christmas. Okay,
Mm.
okay.
Merry Christmas,
Welcome
y'all.
to the Greater of Me podcast. Welcome to the Greater of Me podcast. Welcome to the Greater of Me podcast. Welcome to the Greater of Me podcast. All right,
I know that's right.
had to go crazy. Like,
Welcome.
we got a very special guest, so I had to go crazy, y'all. Like, I had to go crazy. I'm Josh. That is Tara, and that is what name you want today.
Mimi is fine.
Mimi, me Mizzle, Marie-Elise, Mimi on that beat, Mimi on the track.
Woo!
Like,
Yeah.
producer me Mizzle, like, get at her for all your needs next year. She's busy right now.
Right. Thank you very much. That part.
But yeah, guys, this is Marie-Elise, one of my other best friends here at Syracuse University. One thing Syracuse did do is bring some good friends in life. If it ain't give a good education, it gave me good friends. Glory to God.
Amen.
But, yes, this is Mimi. Tell us about yourself, Mimi. Who are you? What is Raven told like this little life story? So like, tell us your upbringing, like, where you
That's
from?
so loaded.
Like, just a little story about yourself. A little short
Okay.
story.
Well, I'm Mimi. I'm a Gemini. Always gotta preface that, you know. I was born and raised in New York City, Lower East Side. Stand up. I don't know, like, what else to say. I have 3 brothers. Love them to death. Yeah, I've been singing for a while, like all my life. I've always loved music. So I went to a performing arts high school, and then I ended up here in Syracuse for IT at first, but then I switched into sound recording technology because I just really wanted to do music. I don't know what else to say about myself.
Okay.
It's like, do I speak about my personality, like my stories, like
Yeah, sure. Like, tell about that. If you want to tell a little bit about your childhood, if you want, anything just about you. Like, what do you want the people to know about Mimi?
What I want the people to know about me? I would say I'm just a very free-spirited person. Very much go with the flow kind of person. I like to have fun. I love spontaneity. Josh can speak to this. I'm very hyper. But like I'm starting to like appreciate that side of myself because for a while I feel like I had to turn it down. But like now I'm just like blossoming into this like super hyper but fun and easygoing person. But I would also say I'm a very deep person and I love emotions. I love talking to people about their stories, their backgrounds, and I love like helping people put the pieces together in their life that makes everything like connect. Which is why I'm happy I'm here today because I feel like that's what you guys are doing, which is awesome. Big fan of this podcast.
The way I'm
Yeah.
listening, like the listeners, because I don't. This is also like my first time actually meeting Mimi, so I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, great. I have questions.
Okay.
Wait. Okay, yes, this is a great question. When do you feel most alive? What are you doing? What is the space you're in? Maybe what is the town you're in? What is the house, type of house? What is the job you might have? What is just like, think big.
Like when do I feel most alive? I would first say like whenever I'm in the city, and I'm just going for walks through the city. I feel like that just like recharges me when I'm alone and I'm listening to music and like I'm able to choose a new path because I know where I'm going every time or like I know at least the area. That's when I feel most alive. But I will also say when I'm performing and when I'm singing on stage, my eyes are closed and I'm just feeling what I'm doing. I feel like I just feel like such a rush, and then like once it's over, it's like you don't have that feeling anymore. Kind of like that scene in Soul where he's on the piano and like he like disappears. I always talk about that, but I think those two are when I feel the most alive, and also when I'm with my friends and I'm just laughing with my friends, having fun. Yeah.
Okay, Tara.
Um, I would say I feel most alive. Definitely with good company. I feel like that's been like the running theme for me, good company. But like even if we're not just like having fun or it's like happy go lucky, like even if it's somber vibes, honestly, like as long as I'm connecting with people that I truly love and it's making me think, it's making me grow, it's challenging my thoughts, like that's when I feel alive the most. Um, but like on a lighter note, I guess like listening to music also definitely makes me feel alive. But like nature, like sitting outside and just like being still and like hearing the wind like blow against the trees, like seeing pretty flowers, seeing art, like things that just bring out the beauty of life make me feel alive.
That's good.
Awesome. Um, I don't know. When I feel most alive, honestly, I would just say the same thing about being performed. There's honestly, I've never experienced a feeling like I have when I'm on stage, um, and like playing a character. Like I just have never had an experience like that ever in any other place of life that I've like encountered. And like it's just when I feel most at home, like with myself, or like most able to like just do. That's when I feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing on this earth. And it just makes me feel really, really good that I'm helping other people feel good. You know. So yeah, that's my short answer. Okay, awesome. But I also want to speak to Mimi's um, Gemini, the which she mentioned, and her sporadicness. Yeah, she loves spontaneity because Mimi, y'all, I could call Mimi, she could call me. Hey, you want to do this? Yeah, I think we should just right. Like we don't even have to say too much. Like Mimi
Right.
is out like anytime. Hot pot? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. If I
Mimi
got
is
like
a
$20 in the bank account, we gonna do that.
Yep.
right.
Yep.
Right. Tara's the same way. At the end of the day, if we're gonna eat good. So, and if we only got
Mhm.
$5 in the bank account, we're gonna spend it on some food. And like that's just a
Hmm.
given. Um, I have another question. What? Ooh. Okay. If you had 3 years to live, what would you be doing differently?
Wow.
How about you answer first?
Yeah.
Um. Hmm. I'd probably drop out of school immediately.
Hmm.
Because that's 2 years. Well, I got a
Yeah.
year left, but that's like a year and a half left. That's already gone. Yeah, I probably drop out of school immediately. And then I don't know. I think I would just live. I like to be spontaneous too, so I think I would just live off that for as long as I possibly could. Like even financially, like I would just live off that. Like for date. Like I would just do whatever I want. Like I would call people, I would hop on flights. Like it wouldn't take me a second to do anything. I would eat what I wanted to eat. I'd also probably just be like trying to take care of my body, but like I would just live, or even if I was still in college, I wouldn't go to class. Like that wouldn't be a question. Or even if I went to class, I wouldn't turn in no homework. Like I wouldn't do that type of stuff. I would just go for the vibes and like to see people. Like, hey y'all, like what y'all doing? I mean, some people who do that, but yeah, I would just go for vibes. Like, hey, what's up? Like, what's going on? Go to the show, sing a little bit, and leave. Like and dip. Like I wouldn't have a care in the world, honestly.
Fair. Um, I think the first thing I would have to do, which this might ruin the spontaneity of it all, but I feel like I'd create a bucket list of like things I really want to do and then just start going down the list and also see who's willing to join me on the adventures. But the first thing that came to the top of my mind, like on the list, I think I want to like do van life, like actually become a nomad. And because like I always think of it when I'm like, okay, in an ideal world, I could literally have all my belongings on one vehicle surrounding me and travel, like just do me. But like then it's like the reality of life automatically sets back in. But then with that, it's like the expiration date, so why not just do it?
That's good. Why would you want
Yeah.
to van life?
Because okay, I'm not saying I would spend all 3 years van life, but like I definitely think that I would want to experience it,
You do it for
especially
like
just like
a
a
year?
decked out, huh?
You do it for like a year or like how long?
I do it for a year if like there were people with me. So like say like 1 month I'm going, or like for one trip I'm going to some state on the West Coast and I could get at least like two people to join me. Then we could do that for like a minute and then I come back home, charge up. Oh,
Hey guys, we're back. Sorry about
Excuse
that
me.
little commercial break. Um, I forgot what we were saying.
me too.
We're on the question about what would you do if you had 3 years left?
Oh yeah, you were talking about how like you would do it for a year, like you would be on the West Coast for one
Van
month.
life.
No, like yeah, I would ideally like to make my rounds in terms of like going to different states, maybe even cross the border if I can, Canada, South America, whatever. But I feel like it would only be worth it to do it really long if people were willing to like go with me. But I don't think that I could do like solo van life for a whole year or any longer. Like solo van life would be like a cool month, maybe.
You think you would last a month?
I know I could last a month. You don't think I could last a month?
I don't know. Would you do van life, Mimi?
Um, I don't know. It depends on the van. Like if it's one of
Oh,
those
my van
cute
has to be
little
decked
van,
out. It has to
yeah.
have
If it's like
everything you
those
could ever
decked
think
out
of.
vans, then I would do it.
Yeah, a luxurious one.
Yeah, like the ones on TikTok, the school buses they
Yeah,
be renovating,
yeah, those are nice. I would do it. Like I would even do RV life. I've always wanted to do that actually.
or RV.
But
Yeah,
Well, RV life is van life. It's all the
oh,
same.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, but some people, but RVs are a little bigger. It is the same, but
Yeah.
the vans be so tight.
It
But they be like,
depends. They have like really big sprinter vans. But I feel like usually like even if someone's like in an RV, or like some people like deck out school buses or like tour
hmm
buses, like all of it is all falls under the same category, I'm pretty sure. So when I say RV life, it genuinely does have to be massive and it has to have eh, like everything I would need to actually like feel like I'm not suffering for fun.
I think I saw a Tesla RV one day.
Really?
It was crazy. Mimi, did you answer?
Mm-mm. Um, I would say I'd probably like travel the world. Yeah, I'd definitely drop out of school too. 'Cause fuck that. Like I'm not gonna be in school learning with all these. I'm not gonna get into it, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, why would I waste my time doing this? Um, but I think travel the world and like I thought when you asked the question, I thought about like career wise, like what I would do. But like if I only had 3 years left to live, like
What's
screw
the
all of
point of
that.
the
Like what
Yeah,
is the point? What's the point? And I feel like I would still want to do music, so I think it'd be cool to like travel and just study the music around the world and like connect with
yeah.
different people. And I know I'm a lover girl, but like I think at that point, if I had 3 years left to live, I want to be alone. And like I just want to travel the world alone and just like
Really?
yes.
I can understand that though. You don't want to be tired. Like you want to be able just to get up and go.
Yeah, yeah, and it's just like also like the pain of like leaving a partner like after 3 years. I mean, it depends. It depends on the person, of course. But no, I would just like to be able to just move on my own accord and just you know.
That makes sense. Yeah, the co-career thing, there would just be no point anymore. I would like
Mm-hmm.
to just travel and like just perform, like just gig. Like
Mm-hmm.
that would just mean a lot. Like just to connect with like people in like small town bars or whatever little things. That would be so dope. Dang, I didn't even think about like a partner or anything.
You know me.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. Well, if I was married, I wouldn't have a choice for that.
Yeah.
Right, that's different. You see, like circumstances are different.
Yeah, circumstances. If I was married, I wouldn't have a choice. But yeah, you bring up a nice point. I would just want to get up and go, and like, because maybe we want to go visit different places in our last 3 years, and I can't be mad at that. Like,
Right.
you want to go to, hmm, that was controversial. I don't know that popped up, but like, I don't know, like you want to go to Cancun, I want to go to Japan. Like, like,
Right.
I don't have time. Okay, good. But like, what about like intentionality? Like, what would you do differently, like in your relationships, or like even like your friendships? Like, how would you? Because it doesn't have to be a bad thing. Like, you don't have to like go to the hospital and be like, we have 3 years left to live. Like, what if it was just like circumstantial? Like, somebody said Jesus is coming back in 3 years. Like,
Amen.
like how would you handle that in your relationships, or like how does that change?
You're saying like if I were told that news, like how would I move differently within my relationships?
Yeah, like any
Um,
relationships. Like,
well, I feel like I would practice a lot of forgiveness. I think because I'm young right now, I feel like I have a lot of time to heal and kind of be angry and understand why I feel the way I feel. But I think if I knew I only had such a short amount of time left, I wouldn't want to spend it so much on focusing on, oh, you did this to me and you did this wrong to me, like, and trying to
yeah,
fix that. I would think I would just practice forgiveness um, with the people who I need to sort that out with. I think with my friends, similar to like what you guys were saying about like having them come along for some trips, like that would be fun. Um, but I think that just practicing more grace and forgiveness and just focusing on being happy and being present with the people that I choose to surround myself with, I think.
That's so good.
that
I
is
would have
good.
never thought about forgiveness, but that's
Hmm.
like
That's actually really good. Yeah,
that's amazing.
I like that. Do you think that the forgiveness would also help you be more present in your relationships?
Yeah, because it allows you to not focus on what the past was and what has happened, um, but also not thinking about the future or like thinking, or if they do this to me again, or like if this is going to happen again. Um, so yeah, it'll force you to focus on what's going on right now and not holding any grudges or resentment towards anyone.
I think also
Which
if I go ahead.
no, I was just like, which I really do need to learn. Like, but
Oh, no, forgiveness is hard.
yeah.
It's easy, but like it's hard. I was
Hmm.
gonna say also, I think because it made me. I don't know why you talking about that made me think of this. Like because it was 3 years. I think I think I would commit a few crimes because like
Oh,
what
Joshua.
Just give it money heist.
like what like if we're going down in 3 years,
Oh my god.
that that top of the third year, what? I it's
I
you
have a
can't put it
question
away.
to that though.
What
I,
you
I
can't
would
put it
say
away.
at what risk? Because for me, it's like, okay, you commit a bunch of crimes, right? Depending on the
Okay,
type of crimes.
not
But it's
crazy crime.
okay, because my thing is like, if you're committing crazy crimes, then you want to be locked up your last 2 years out of
No,
the
but that's
three,
also the thing. You got to remember that the courts are backed up. So the top of the third year, I commit the crime. I commit the crime in February. They not really getting to my date, my trial date until because granted, I'm gonna have a good lawyer. If we can find one at that point. Because if everybody got 3 years left to live, everybody might just quit their jobs.
Oh wait,
So
it's everybody has 3 years left, or just you?
I mean, it was just us. But like in this scenario, if it was everybody, like like
But then it's also just like, okay, I'm still trying to understand what type of crimes. Because say you're stealing money, you're gone in 3 years. Like, what is that money to you? Granted, yes, you
so
can
I
use
can
it.
use it. I can use it for the rest of the time.
Okay.
I probably we just talked about forgiveness. I probably
What were you gonna say?
I'd probably
So, just
I don't know.
say
I probably just do like some random stuff, like the stuff that's like illegal, like the little stuff that's illegal, but like people still do. Like I just would, yeah, like like I'm walking in the store not paying for anything. Like I'm not gonna lie, like who's gonna like there is just
Not your
okay. That's
mama
crazy.
listening.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy. But yeah, I would just be sure to like show love to people too. I don't know, but it can be hard. Forgiveness is a good little topic. How do and we've talked about that before, but like why um different situations are different, but like why is it harder to forgive? Oh, okay, good question. Is it harder? It's harder to forgive people you love, right, rather than like somebody maybe you just met.
Yeah.
Is that like a question?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can like twist it, spin it, however you want.
I don't know. I don't know if that is accurate for me. I think that like I'm actually way easier to forgive people that I've formed genuine connection and relationship with because I'm the type of person who's so quick to give people the benefit of a doubt. Granted, if it's like a way that they seriously like offended me or hurt me, yeah, I feel like I'm still able to like I have this weird thing which I also was just talking about with a friend, but like I have this weird thing where instead of getting angry about things, like I feel other things before anger. Like it takes me a lot to be angry. But I get sad or like yeah, like I turn to sadness before I turn to anger. And like even in my sadness, I'm able to like be sad for myself only for so long until for some reason I start to feel sad for the other person. Which then allows me to be able to like forgive people really fast. Just cause like my mind is so quick to try and make sense of it, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And like then I start to empathize with the other person or try to like rationalize what they did, which honestly probably isn't that healthy. Um, but yeah, so I think that's why like when it comes to people I actually know, depending on how well I know you, then in my mind I'm like starting to make assumptions about like okay, well like I know that person's character and then or I know what they've been through. So then like I start to like hold that's where the like grace aspect comes in where I'm like okay, like I can let this go because I understand. Not that it's like okay, but like I try to rationalize it and I think that makes it easy for me to forgive. Whereas like with a stranger, if I don't know you, then it's just like you did me dirty and there's nothing for my mind to like hold on to try to make sense of why you could have done that. Um
Do you
if that
think
makes sense.
though, like with the loved ones, that we're actually fully forgiving them, or is it just because you want to see them through that, or like because you know who they are, maybe beyond that, or like you still want to give them that grace that it's just a way of like almost like just another like coping mechanism, if you will. Like if it's like, do you think that's like fully forgiveness? Because I feel like sometimes like you know how like you might say that about your friend, but like certain things you just whoa, it does it on here too.
Yeah, I just was like, wait, what?
I was like, what the hell is that?
uh you know, like sometimes like you take more stuff from like the people that you love. Like you're more likely to like let something like fly just because like you still love them or like everything else that they do is like fine. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So like, do you think that's like true forgiveness or is it just like
I
I don't know?
think it depends on how we're defining forgiveness. For me, like the way I look at forgiveness is like I whatever animosity, whatever sadness, like whatever ill feeling I have towards you, as soon as I'm able to let it go and like look at you and not feel any sort of like ill emotion or have any sort of ill intent, I've forgiven you. It doesn't mean that like when I look at you, I feel fantastic or like I have great thoughts and great feelings about you. But I feel like the moment it goes from when I look at you, I get sad or I get angry or I get frustrated to I look at you and I don't feel those things, in my eyes, you're forgiven. Um, but I guess it's just how you're looking at forgiveness.
Yeah. You how do you feel?
Um, like my definition of forgiveness or answering the
Yeah,
question.
like on
Okay.
anything or like
I feel like kind of I resonated a lot with what you said. Um, I don't know, forgiveness is such a hard topic for me because I'm kind of the opposite of you though, like where it's like you said you go to sadness first and then you go to anger. I go to anger more than I thought I ever had. Like I don't know, like I was in therapy and I remember they were just trying to get me to describe what I was feeling when I was like talking about a situation. It was like my first session and I literally couldn't put to words what I was saying. And so like some way they did like an exercise with me and like basically we found out that like I was feeling anger. And I always equated anger to being like, like being like furious. Um, and so I never realized, I think until earlier this year, like how angry I was towards a lot of people, towards a lot of situations, and how that kind of like saw its way in like my life in different situations and in different emotions as well. And so I feel like it is harder for me to say to forgive people that I love and that I'm close to. And I think it depends on the situation because there are just some things where it's like I feel like I've learned to let go. Like I'm just like I can't take that personally. Like that's fine. Like that is a reflection of your character and your truth. Um, but there are some instances where I felt like I've held grudges for a long time, longer than I needed to. And within that, that just like caused a lot of unrestfulness within me and my body and my spirit. And so when it comes to people that I love, I think it's harder for me to forgive them just because of like my childhood and like the way I was raised. I feel like the way I was taught I'm sorry is you just say I'm sorry and you don't fix anything. And like you just say I'm sorry, and because you said I'm sorry, everything is good. And I think that's why I struggle with forgiveness so much because in my mind that's what forgiveness meant, which is saying sorry and like moving on.
Yeah,
Where I feel like when it comes to people you love and forgiveness, and when they ask for your forgiveness, it's an opportunity for you to grow and to realize where you went wrong and where they hurt you to get you to that point. And so yeah, I feel like it's like a little more complicated as opposed to like a stranger who did me dirty or whatever. I just be like, okay, like whatever, like I
I
forgive you,
agree.
fine, you know. Where it's just like I let that go. Like you
Yeah,
don't
Yeah.
have any ties to me and to my spirit, so it's like whatever. Um, but
yeah.
yeah,
Because sometimes it becomes like a question of like the people that you love. Like it's like we love each other and you still did this, or like
right.
I shouldn't. Like you know what I'm saying? It comes from a place of like why did this even happen? Because I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the time, even like with family stuff, like we can talk about it. Like it's almost like as if it's a burden, like a burden to things, or because I love you, like I did. Like I people will often use love as a scapegoat. Like I
Mm-hmm.
did that because I love you, or because I didn't know any better. You know what I'm saying? And it's not, though that may have been true at the time, but it's like also, is that really the truth? If that was just not the right definition of love, like maybe you just didn't know what love really looks like. And it's like that can also like wear and tear in your heart, because then you're like misconstruing your thoughts of love, and now you're taking that on and like believing that that's what love looks like, and that you can just say sorry in the name of love and everything is okay. And it's like, no, actually that does like some sort of like mind game with me, because now I'm like, dang, like I'm not just supposed to be able to forgive you just because you're family, or just because like
Mm-hmm.
you love each other, or you know what I'm saying? Like it's okay to still like question the fact, but I think it's harder in those situations because I'm like, I shouldn't even have to like go through this for me. Whereas like, yeah, like with the stranger, I'm like, okay, I don't know you, like whatever.
I have a
Um,
question. I
yeah.
think it's twofold, but I don't fully know the question yet. So, yeah. But the first half of it is it's like, do you think that, or for both of you, does forgiveness look like reconciliation as well?
Mm.
Like when you think about forgiveness, do you also think that you have to then like keep the person as a part of your life? And then the second part of the question would be, when it comes to family and forgiveness, that same question of reconciliation, but then do you feel like, because I think the way I think of it, right? It's like when people talk about forgiveness around like anybody else other than family, it's always like you can forgive them, but they don't have to stay in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Versus when it's family, it's like you have to forgive them and they have to still be a part of your life because they're
Mm-hmm.
so and so to you. And I guess it gets like it varies based off of like proximity. So, like, say if it's your dad, it's your sister, it's your brother, like you have to forgive, you have to keep them. But say it's like a second cousin, like you can forgive, but you know, they're
Made me
distant,
go.
so it
I
doesn't really
feel
matter. Um, so
Mimi,
yeah,
go on. My
those
short
are my
answer is no.
questions.
It's so funny that you like said that and used those specific words of like reconciliation and forgiveness. I think the best thing I've ever heard in therapy is that forgiveness does not mean reconciliation. Because you have to remember at the end of the day, forgiveness is not only, it's not for the other person, it's for you. And
Yeah.
sometimes if you're even within a toxic family, sometimes forgiveness looks like being able to take a step away from that toxicity so you yourself can heal and you yourself can grow while forgiving them, but also not reconciling or changing the dynamic of the relationship. That may not look like the way it was when it was toxic because that's just, you can't function on those frequencies anymore.
Yeah,
And so it's really hard because it's like I feel like especially in like Caribbean households, it's very much like your family is all you got and like you all have to like, be together and like even on the holidays when everyone's beefing, you still have to go and like pretend you're all cool and wait till everyone's drunk so they can all fight. Like it's just that consistent pattern. It's because they keep pushing reconciliation and not forgiveness or not understanding what forgiveness really is.
yeah.
And so yeah, I
Or
don't think
sometimes
that.
even just like sweeping it under the rug. Like it's not
Right,
even a complete forgiveness. It's just like, oh, get over it. Like that's your brother. Get over it. Like
right.
that's your,
Mm-hmm.
your mom, dad, whatever that looks like. And it's like that is. I mean, obviously in the black and brown like community, like that's already done enough. Like we've seen the way that's unfolded. Just because like at the same end of the day, like it's the same thing. Like we're all each other God. So like we use that phrase as a means of like just being able to like treat anybody the way you want
Mm-hmm.
inside of your household, inside of your family. But like we go outdoors and like people are always like, oh, like people are like, oh, you don't know my mom for real, like because like everybody's like acting. There's a whole nother act outside the household that people put
Mm-hmm.
on just so they can like do whatever it is
Mm-hmm.
that they're doing for their household, but come back home like with all this baggage that they're not dealing with and exploding it on everybody else. Um, and yeah, I don't think it means reconciliation because just like Mimi said, the forgiveness is also for you. So if you're realizing that a person is no longer serving you or your time wisely or benefiting you in the purpose of like just fulfilling you wholly, like just giving you back something that you've been giving them in a wholesome way, then yeah, like it doesn't always mean that we have to come back together. It doesn't mean that we treated each other disrespectfully or be rude or have some sort of animosity towards each other. It just means that we are not where we once were anymore, and that's okay. Like,
Yeah.
because it also doesn't mean that we're not coming back to the same place or we're not coming back later. It just means that like right now, like like we need to take a step away, and it takes strength to step away. And like, there's power in space and time. I believe
Mm-hmm. For
it's not
sure.
always about just like jumping right back into it, or like Mimi said, like just going to the family function and acting like you like this person, or even where it's just like giving them the side eye every time you walk by them. That's too much work. That is too much
Mm-hmm.
energy. I'm not doing all of that. Like, nah.
Yeah. I think like the key thing in the conversation of like forgiveness and grace is also self and boundaries. I think the more we know our triggers, like the more we understand how we want to be loved, the more respect we hold for ourselves and space we hold for ourselves, the easier it is to manage our relationships in the sense of like setting boundaries and like knowing your limits with people, knowing what's okay and what's not okay. Um, but it takes time. And unfortunately, it takes experience of like going through certain relationships and having certain things happen to you. And I don't know if it's like necessary to go through super sucky relationships to come to the other side of it. Um, but yeah, I just feel like from my experience, the most like the biggest lessons that I've taken away when it comes to like forgiveness or like learning how to set proper boundaries or like learning how I want to be loved and like how I want to love others has been through like just experiencing different relationships and just learning along the way. Um but yeah, I feel like being black, being of African descent, being Caribbean, being what a person of color, it comes with so many different layers because you're experiencing so much at the same time because it's a lot of projection that comes from like, generations past. But then it's also like you're also learning for yourself, like you're going for yourself, and then you're
Yeah.
trying to figure out how to balance the two things, and it can be really hard but also really detrimental to like our mental.
Yeah. I think it's also really hard too because like our generation's on that wave of length of like um or we're trying to be in that way, not everyone. Of like just knowing themselves more. And like it's also just learning how to be alone. I think that's what it is too.
Mhm.
Enough people don't know themselves well enough. And actually, crazy. Actually, the other day, Mimi and I and like some other our friends, shout out to y'all, y'all know who y'all are. Already talked about y'all once. We were playing a game, like answering questions just like these, actually. Um, but like it was about each other, and we were like going around, like people were saying stuff about each other. But we were just already also self aware that like
Mhm.
when people like when somebody says something about the other person, we're like, yeah, you're right, right? Like even if it may have been like quote unquote like the negative side of somebody, it was like, yeah,
Mhm.
you're right. Like, or like we're trying to work on that. Or like a good thing, like we already knew, and like we knew like how to contribute to like each other's like answers to the questions. You know what I'm saying? Just because of how well we know each other.
Yeah.
So I think even with that, that goes back. I said that to say like about what you were saying about the past generations, like how that's just been carried on to us. Like we're on that wave of like trying to figure out who we are, like trying to do the best thing, the right thing, like and operating with our generation. But at the end of the day, we're still going back home to the people who are not doing that, or and really
Yeah.
don't see the purpose of it any either, just because like they feel like once they've worked, they got a job, like they have their home, like their kids are doing all right. You know what I'm saying? Like that's kind of what their generation is. So like they feel like, oh, you're doing just fine. Like you're not
Mhm.
outside just because like that is what like pushed to them. Like they, whether they came from like another country or stuff like that, they like like they made it according, not made it, but like they're doing okay in the American dream way. Um, it's really difficult too, though. I don't know if you guys want to talk about that too, like how we're just so like with us, like each like people like minded like us, it's easier to do that, but like we still have to like go home to different things. I find that kind of hard, honestly, if I'm being completely honest. Sometimes like I go home and just like spending time with my family. Obviously, I love them and love being with them, but sometimes it's just hard to connect on an emotional or like mental level
Mhm.
Mhm.
because of the baggage that they have, maybe with each other, or like from the things that they went through in their childhood, or from just their life experience of whatever. Um, but we're also in that same token taught not to like speak up about it, like suck it up, like you're tough. That is crazy. But speak it up like you're tough, like all that stuff.
um Not to backtrack, but I think that this also does tie into exactly what you just said. Josh, that's insane.
Why would
Doesn't
it
work
work for
for
me?
you.
Oh
Doesn't work for you.
no.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think that like what you said about the more that we get to know ourselves, it
The harder it is to.
allows.
Ooh, I'm sorry. Finish your statement. But you know what I thought of as soon as you said that? The more we get to know ourselves, the harder it is to interact with other people because they're not doing the work. But keep going. It
Wow,
allows.
okay, wow. All the dots are connecting. Wow, my brain. Wow. Okay. But the more we get to know ourselves, like I said, it's easier to like filter out like who's for you and who's not for you because you're coming up into the conversation, into the relationship already knowing your triggers, already knowing what's a waste of your time, already knowing like what to expect type of thing. So you can like kind of filter out. Like, it's easier to discern. It's easier to just like know what space is safe and what space is not for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then in that same breath, going back to what I said earlier, why I feel like I'm the way I am with my relationships in terms of forgiveness is because I feel like the relationships that I now, as I stand today, the relationships that I allow myself to enter are so intentional in the sense that before I even get into the relationship or I give this person a piece of my heart or my time or my energy or my space, I'm already like checking them off as somebody who is safe for like me to allow to enter and allow for them to enter in, which is why it's like if we ever do get to a point where there's a situation that comes up where you've offended me or I've offended you, or we've both offended each other, like you said when y'all were sitting together and playing the game with your friends, I know you well enough to maybe kind of understand the process of what made you think that that was okay. And it's also like I'm now going into this relationship kind of like the way when you go into a relationship with like a romantic partner where you're in it for the long run. So no matter what conflict arises, you know that you're both agreeing that you want to get to the other end of it. So it's like no matter what comes, you're in it together. Even though you might hate each other for a little bit, even though somebody offended the other person, you know that like what you really need to overcome is the situation and not each other, if that makes sense. I feel like
Yeah.
that's the same way I process it, where it's like, because I know you so well enough, but because I trust myself in the decision I made to allow you to be in my life, I now am not looking at this offense as like, oh, this was a personal attack. I'm more looking at it as like, I know you. I know you love me. I know I trust you, but why did this happen? And how are we going to get over it? If that makes sense. And I
Yeah.
know that that doesn't apply for every situation because there are a lot of nuances with that. And sometimes we do give our trust to people who don't deserve it. Um, but I think it does all tie back into just like the more you get to know yourself and like the more sure you are of the decisions you're making in terms of who you're actually allowing into your life, I think it does become easier to also just like exist in those relationships where you are able to forgive each other when things happen because you're making the smart decision in allowing them to be a part of your life in the first place. Um Now that whole conversation looks a lot different in terms of family, but yeah.
Mimi, anything?
No, I agree with what you're saying because I think it is easier for me to forgive my friends than it is my family. Because for the same reasons, where it's like, your friends are your chosen family, so you choose to let these people in and, trust them and
Yeah.
understand them. And I feel like personally, like, I'm closer to my friends than I am to my family, especially up here in school where I'm like with them all the time and I know their routine and I know their personal relationships and their hobbies and the things that they're constantly doing. I have everyone's freaking location at this point. Like, um, but yeah, I feel like it's been easier for me to discern like what kind of people I want in my life and like what kind of people I don't. And God willing, like I would have been able to create tons of meaningful friendships with people who I know, like deep down to their core, would never hurt me because I know I would never hurt them. Um, and knowing that that pain is never going to happen, or of course, like you said, it's nuanced. Things can happen. At the end of the day, like the minor things, they don't seem to like override like what I'm feeling when it comes to my friends and when it comes to forgiveness. Um, so yeah.
And I think too, I just lost my train of thought. But about choosing your friends. Oh, you were saying that like sometimes those bad people can be in your family, the people that you don't want to like reconcile with, or the people who don't, because people don't. Some people don't want to change. Um, so sometimes those spoiled apples can be. It's not just a one-sided type thing. Um, but yeah, what?
But wait, you were gonna say something, and it
God.
was like in the lines of like the more you get to know yourself,
Oh
the
yeah.
harder it is.
To
Oh, the
connect with
harder it
other
is to
people,
interact with other people.
interact.
Yeah, can you?
Um, I find that to be very true just in life right now, honestly, because I just people just don't know themselves, and I think that's where like you start seeing people like do things just to like fit in, or do things to like seem they're a certain way or act a certain way, or like they're got something going on for themselves. Like there's a clear difference between the person who's like not doing things for the sake of other people so that they can see it, versus the person who's just doing them to make their soul happy, or just doing them because like it's a genuine act that they want to pursue.
Yeah.
I see it most prevalent right now at school, like in school. A lot of people want praises. A lot of people want the attention on them. Or granted, I am in music school, like in the arts, so like there's some level of some sort of like want the attention on me, like for
Mm-hmm.
everyone, obviously. But some people only do things or say things or like um, take a job because like they wanna be able to brag about, or they want to be able to like look down on other people, or they want to be able to like, I don't know. You guys know what I'm saying though. Like
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
some people just do things just for the applause of other people.
For
Um,
validation.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Very real.
That's all.
Can you hear
Oh,
that?
yeah. Boop, 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 boop. Take two. Mimi, what's on your mind? I want you to teach these people, y'all. Mimi, this is calm for Mimi, okay?
Yeah.
But
I don't
because
know.
Mimi
Like,
can talk.
give me a question. Give me a juicy one. Like,
Okay.
let's
She
get some
said,
Uh,
meat.
end the pod short, babes. Babes.
um, whatever. Uh, cut. Okay. um, a juicy one. Let me think. A juicy question. A juicy question for Mimi. Why do you think people take so long to heal after the acknowledgement of it? Like, why do you think some people choose to like um, stay in toxic situations or stay in a suffering moment? Like, why are people afraid to like take that next step after the acknowledgement? So, like, not before the acknowledgement, not before they like realize something crazy is going on,
Mm-hmm.
but after. I don't know about y'all, but like, I know people, and even myself, I could probably name a few situations too. Obviously, we like different stuff, but like you know what I'm saying? Like, why do you think that is? Like, why
Mm-hmm.
is it become? It might be a comfortability thing, but why is it comfortable?
Well, my favorite term of the year is people are addicted to suffering. And I feel like people don't really understand when I say that, like what that means, what addiction means. Sometimes when you're addicted to something, you don't want to be addicted to it, but because it's so ritual and it's so, I mean, routine and like it's everything you've ever known. It's scary to push yourself to be uncomfortable and able to grow. And also, a lot of people just don't know their worth because of childhood and like the people they were raised by. I think like it always stems from childhood. I always say that. If you were raised in an environment where you were always put down or your value was put down or your worth was put down, you're not going to know what that looks like in order to grow. Because in order to grow, that's what you need to do. You need to put yourself first and really see like, who am I? What's my worth? And like, what's my purpose? And when you don't have that in you already, it's harder to find it. And I think for a lot of people, I think just even switching around the people that you're friends with, that could really help you a lot. The connections that you have in your life, like being tied down to toxic people, I think being able to discern is like one of the most important things you need to do to heal. Because if you're constantly tied to toxic people, or people who are just not serving you, like, and toxicity looks like so many different things. It's not just abuse, it's people who are low
Mm-hmm.
vibrational, it's people who aren't passionate about things or don't choose to be passionate about things. When you're tied to those people, that's all you're going to ever know. And so I feel like people are so addicted and they're so comfortable in that because that's all they know, and they're not willing to take the step to break out of that. But I think the first step in knowing that is like finding a truth, finding a light, whether that's religion, whether that's therapy, whether that's a hobby that can grow into something more, or a passion, because within those three things there's love, I feel like. And I feel like love is the answer to breaking all of that. Not just romantic love, of course, but love like for yourself, love in life, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So, and I feel like with our society, with our generation, like so many people are addicted to suffering and
it's
just
crazy.
addicted to being the victim.
It's
Mm.
And
crazy.
I struggled with that for a long time. And I didn't even know that I was going through it. But I realized I was like, I feel like this year I finally just got to a point where it's like I'm tired of being depressed. Like I'm just tired of being sad. Like
I was
it's
just gonna say
actually
it's because
draining.
people get so used to operating out of the pain. Like they're not
Mm-hmm.
they don't they don't want to like look for that light that you're talking about. Like they just get so used to like taking it or whatever comes their way, and then boom, still got to get up at 8 a.m. or whatever. You know, still got to go here at 7 tonight. Or well, you know what I'm saying? Like they get so used to just like keeping up with the emotions. And of course, like we can talk about Black people emotions because like it seems like that we have to do that to like find our way in the world. But like yeah, people just don't want to wake up just because they want to. I mean, I know people who do it for fun. Honestly, if I'm really speaking truthfully, which is sad. And
Mhm.
you know, honestly, I can't talk too much because there's once upon a time like I preferred a toxic situation. You know what I'm saying? But not. I didn't. That sounds crazy, but not like I didn't prefer that. It was just like it just seemed like it was okay. You know,
It was easy.
until you. Right, it was just
Mm-hmm.
easy and it was fun. Like it was a little thrill, like a little thrill.
I have a point. I'm
Go
sorry to
ahead.
cut you off, but Tara's saying that it's easy. I feel like that's the point. It's easy to be negative. It's so
Yeah,
easy
yeah. So
to wake up every day miserable and like find a little reason to like be angry or upset or like get agitated or
Especially
toxic.
when people are affirming you in whatever you're
Yeah,
feeling. And that goes to
exactly.
like you being like your friends. Like when all your friends are depressed, so when all of your friends wake up talking about my life sucks, this sucks, I don't want to be here, and you're all spreading around the same energy, like
or just people who just always want to talk negatively. Like I
yeah.
just like everywhere people go, like I know people who just all they want to do is just talk like bad or like they just speak like bad. They don't speak well into their situations or like into other people. Like people who just like love to like live off mess. They love to be messy or like they like to
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
talk crap. Like I'm just like why? Like I can't be around you this that long. Like I don't want to. That's no. Why? It's too no. Life is too short, and like we don't have time to just be sitting here and if I'm depressed, you depressed, we just all gonna be depressed. No,
Mhm.
Right.
like
I think another big factor is fear of failure and fear of like rejection. Like people are afraid that if they switch up, then they'll be alone and their friends won't want them anymore because they're on something different because they want to be positive and like try and like make something of their life rather than just like sit and be complacent in whatever they're in. And then also like fear of failure in the sense of like, okay, let's say that I do try and break out of these habits. Let's say I do try and like switch up the routine. What if it doesn't work? What if I still feel the same way? Like it's fear of the unknown. Like they don't know what it's going to look like if they do decide to drop this friend group. Am I going to have new friends? Like is anyone going to like me? Like it's all of these fears that allow people to also just think that it's easier to just stay in what they're in because it's like if I don't know what it's going to look like when I choose to step out of this, then why am I stepping out of this?
yeah,
Because it's also fear of the work because it is work. It's work to want better. It's work to wake up every day and choose to be positive and choose to see the good and choose to see the light instead of just seeing the apparent darkness, you know? Um yeah, but I don't know. I do think it takes a lot of time and a lot of meditation and a lot of reflection and a lot of being present and a lot of being intentional, which is very anti-culture. Even though as much as people want
hmm,
to say that like, oh, our generation is getting better at being like intentional
yeah,
or being present or being loving or being aware of our mental health. Like I think it's one thing to like actually talk about it, but it's another thing to actually like apply it to life and
yeah,
reality.
yeah.
Yeah. And I think it has a lot to do with perspective. Um, I think the one thing I would say to like anyone who is like in that position right now where they can't see the light is to keep in mind that growth, also speaking to the fear of failure and rejection, that growth isn't linear. And that is the whole point of perspective. Because once you start to realize, like at the end of the day, you don't have much control over your life. You don't. You have control over decisions you make, but at the end of the day, like you can have everything you ever asked for, and like the next day it could be thrown out the window. So there's going to be a lot of ups and downs in your life, and you have to like be okay with that and understand that the downs are just moments where you need to learn and reflect and think about what went wrong, and the highs are when you praise and when you're grateful and your gratitude, but like also making sure that gratitude is like consistent throughout that.
Yeah.
Because it's all about perspective. If you're in a high and then you go down to a low and you're just thinking, oh crap, I just had a high, now I have a low, and like now everything has gone wrong, this, that, and the third, it's going to keep going down. In order to build yourself back up, you need to be able to choose perspective and think, okay, why did it go down in the first place and how do I get it back
Mm-hmm.
up? Which I feel like a lot of people in our society struggle with too, because we have like such short attention spans. And it's so hard for us to really take a step back and think where we went wrong and how we can do better.
I think too we have to like check ourselves on like our
Mm-hmm.
disposition, and how like we're keeping our minds wrapped on tight. Because if you're defining your worth on based on your situation, then you'll never be at peace.
Right.
So I think that like finding that peace within yourself and like within like your purpose and who you're meant to be and like the way that you treat others people or like what you're bringing to this world, then that's when you also figure out that like yes, the low is low, but it's nothing compared to where I'm about to bounce up to next.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just a springboard effect. You know what I'm saying? Like, just to like go back to your point of it, growth not being linear. Like sometimes like it can look like a graph, and we're gonna shoot up, and we may come back down. We're gonna shoot right back up. You know what I'm saying? So I think also just making sure your mind is just like it's not being controlled by what your circumstance is, because that's to me has just been proven to be a road of disaster because now you're letting what people throw at you or what the world throws at you control how you respond or how you react or how now you're acting in this world and moving every day to life. I hate the phrase "I'm just having a bad day," so that means I get to treat everybody else bad, right? That means I get
Mm-hmm.
to like treat poorly. That means I'm not going to hold the door open for the person behind me. And of course, we're all human, so like little instances and stuff like that come to play, and it's okay for it to like be in those moments sometimes, but it doesn't excuse the fact that um, there are not other humans in this world too who may also be having a bad day. Because again, we're not alone. So it's just it's just keeping that same caliber, so that you can be sure that your mind is not being just it's not being played into the game of life. Um, and that you're controlling it and not the world controlling you.
Yeah, I think too, like a little bit about what we talked about last week ties into this too, where like our mindset in terms of allowing our past to define us rather than what our present looks like and what our future could be. Um, I think that when we get so caught up in like how we're currently living in terms of like the mistakes we're making or the toxic relationships we're in and like maybe what our pasts look like, whether it's like trauma or just habits that we formed over time, and allowing that to just be the truth we live in versus like expanding our mindset and recognizing that if we are able to get to the point of releasing our past and truly letting go, that there's so much goodness to welcome in and like just taking a step forward and like genuinely just not setting any expectations for real of like the future, but genuinely just knowing that I'm going to let go of my past and release it and welcome in whatever comes my way and just taking it one day at a time.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe anything.
No, I was gonna say that that like perfectly ties into like grace, which I think a lot of people is what why a lot of people are addicted to suffering as well. And it's grace and reflection. It's like not being able to just sit back and like think about what you did wrong in your toxic patterns and your habits, but also forgiving yourself um, for those patterns and those habits. I think a lot of people get tied into like, oh my God, like I fucked up so much in the past. Like, how am I ever gonna redeem myself within myself? When it really is just taking the time to reflect on how you got there, paying attention to the patterns in your family that led you to that point. Because at the end of the day, we came into this world like not knowing everything, and everything we've learned is because of the world around us. You know, you didn't come into this world
Right.
being an angry individual or someone who's addicted to something, or someone who wants to be in abusive or toxic relationships. It's because that is a world that formed around us as we grew, and like we somehow like grew into the world while that was happening. And so I think that that's a big thing our generation is missing, being able to give yourself grace and give yourself, be patient with yourself also, like, because I think we expect growth to happen so fast, or we wish that it would, but it's like it takes years to heal from stuff. Like there are still 40-year-olds healing from stuff that happened to them when they were 10, you
Mm-hmm.
Right.
know. So you're never gonna fully be, healed. But that's the whole point. You're never gonna, like, the point is not being 100% healed and saying like I'm a perfect person and I've gone through everything. The point is being able to say I've been through so much, but because of my mindset and because of the grace that I've given myself, it has given me so much peace.
Mm-hmm.
Even though tomorrow, like, life can turn completely left.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, hashtag
And
grace,
I
y'all.
and I think on top of that grace, it's like despite where anyone is at right now, like despite how broken you are, also recognizing that you're deserving of love and your decisions don't define you as a person. Um yeah, I just think that a lot of times people also just repeat toxic cycles and habits and patterns because one, it's easy, but it's also just like a part of them also feels like they don't deserve better for themselves either. I think that like with the example of like being in a toxic relationship or an abusive relationship or whatever, it's like a lot of people will stay there because they genuinely feel like they don't deserve better. But it's also recognizing that no matter what you've done, no matter what poor decisions you've made, you are still valid of love. Like you are still valued as a human being, and being able to still recognize your value no matter how deep the pit has become.
Yeah.
Um
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, that's a great way to wrap it up because that ties beautifully into our questions. Like, what's one thing that's greater in you? So we answer two questions at the end of every episode. Or do you know? Do you watch every week? No. What's one thing that's called out? What's one thing that's greater in you? Um, and what's one thing that you want to be greater in you that is in the world?
Those are such good questions. Um, Wait, so the first one, what's something that's greater in me?
Yeah.
Like in general, like not even okay. I think my self-awareness is the one thing that's greater in me. Not only because of what it does for me, but how it allows me to connect with other people. Um, and my reflection, my self-reflection. Um, and I think I have a lot of love to give. So I think that's something that's greater in me. What's the second question?
What's one thing you want to be greater in you?
Something I want to be greater in. Um, After today's conversation, definitely forgiveness. I think there's still a lot of work I have to do there. Um, and I think I just want to be more confident in my abilities, in my talents. I think that's definitely like what I'm leaning into for the new year,
That's
pushing
good.
myself out my comfort zones. Yeah.
That's good. Love, love. Want to go next for me?
You can go.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Okay, I'll go.
Okay.
One thing one thing that's greater in me, I would like to say is love. Um I don't know, I just hold a lot of space in my heart for people. Um and I do love that about me, but sometimes it does scare me. But I can't really change it cuz it's just how I am for real. And then one thing I wish that were greater in me was patience. Um
It's patience,
Patience
guys.
for so many different reasons. Patience just in terms of like what we talked about, where you have this vision or you have this hunger, you have these passions and desires to like want to see something manifest, whether it's in your life for like goals you have for yourself or even within like relationships. Like you wish so much for a situation to change, whether you wish someone would like see their like shortcomings or like whatever the situation is, you know. I just think that like my patience in that area can be kind of thin sometimes, where I just like want people to recognize maybe their potential, or I want my life to just like bear fruit of what I've been like sowing seeds in and watering and whatever. But also just like patience for myself, in just the journey of life, and grace, I guess, too. That could be greater.
Great answers. For me, I'm gonna say servanthood is one thing that's greater in me. I feel like um, I just serve others way faster than I serve myself, which can be a pro and a con. But um, I like it about me. Like I'm not always looking for like what I can get out of other people. I truly like enjoy giving to people, whether that be like giving love or like actually giving them gifts or like just giving them my time or just being a giver. Like um, serving the community, like stuff like that. Like I enjoy that about myself. Um, One thing I wish was greater in me is probably just like I probably said this before, but like just boundary setting. Like I've been doing it like the whole like no thing, better at the no thing, but just being more clear with it with myself and staying like what's the word? Like staying vigilant over that, like being clear on what it is and like not letting up on myself. Like saying no once is not always good enough for some people. So like
Mm-hmm.
be able to just like stand on that. Because much like the forgiveness thing, sometimes a no is not always just a no for that person. It's like a no just for me, like because like I don't need to be doing that right now, or I just you know what I'm saying. Like it's something I'm protecting within myself. So yeah, that about wraps
Wait,
up
this
this
is so
holiday season.
random. When you
What?
said that, I learned how to, you know, that guy on TikTok who does like the ASL? I learned how to say stand on business. And I was like, you gotta stand on business. I'm sorry, I'm actually insane. So that's the only thing I could think of when you said
You
that.
know who should
Wait,
learn
wait.
that?
How do you say it?
Stand on business.
Business. So
Period.
what?
Stand
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 on
on.
business.
on business.
Is it palm down?
Period.
Palm down and then business.
On.
That's on, yeah.
Oh, stand on
Stand on
business.
business.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Mimi finna be walking around campus.
You be like,
You don't gotta say nothing, just reminder.
Well, we need to teach the people that the sign language people here to be at the events because I don't know if they be
Okay.
doing. But yeah, y'all, Merry Christmas and a
Merry
Happy New Year.
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas,
Woo
y'all.
woo.
Merry Christmas. I hope everyone's day is filled with love. I hope your holiday season is filled with love. For those of you like missing a loved one this time for the missing a loved one this go around for the first time, I hope I hope just peace finds you in the middle of the wheel. Whatever it is, remember them. Do something that they would do around this time. Try to just tap into them. Like do something that they like to do. Just how we said earlier, it's easier to think about the negative. But just try to be grateful in the situation. Be grateful that that person just may not be suffering anymore. Be grateful that you still have other people around you that can comfort you in this time. So yeah, sorry, I just
That
Glory.
was really nice.
but yeah, I just hope everyone is having a peaceful and just a nice holiday season. I hope you have the day off work. I hope your family's doing well. Yeah, guys, just have a great time. If we don't see you before the new year,
Wait, will
don't take
it?
in your old bad habits into the new year. I can do it.
It's not working.
Dang.
Aw.
Okay, bye, guys.
Love y'all. Bye.
Bye.